What happens when you mix match triple groove keepers with a single groove valve train system into the same head? You're gonna find out. Hey, your favorite from 4 Vision Engines, and today we got the engine all the way from the UK here in our workshop. The engine is from a good friend of mine, Ollie from Orange. He sent the engine to us because it has suffered multiple failures over the years, starting with last year's Club53 Austria trip. I also was on the trip with my yellow banana over there. Nonetheless, his valve spring of cylinder number 4 broke into pieces. So with the entire group we put our heads together and placed a temporary solution so he could finish the trip and drive home safely. So here you can see this little sucker broke. So on the top of a random mountain in Austria, we of course didn't have any resources to fix this valve spring. So we had to get creative. And as you can see in the picture, we tied up a bunch of scraps we had underneath the retainer to compensate for the gap the broken valve spring created. So the idea was to push the valve to its fully closed position and remove the corresponding rocker arm so the valve couldn't be pushed down anymore. So basically the engine ran on 15 valves instead of all 16 valves at this point. So we slightly adjusted the tune of this car, and with this setup he not only finished the entire trip, but also made it all the way home to the UK. Now, back to the video. Once he was home, he sent it to a mini specialist to replace all the valve springs to upgraded Supertech valve springs. But they made a very big mistake. They used the wrong combination of parts, because they used single groove valve train system together with a triple groove valve train system that shouldn't be used together. If you come take closer, you can see the top of the valve broke off the valve itself. As we take a look closer to the valve next to it, you can see the combination that is used with the triple groove keepers. Those are the two small little halves right here, with the single groove retainer, the Supertech retainer itself. This causes too much tension between the parts when used wrong. Ultimately, this valve will break too, and they all will, when they run in this type of combination. So we're gonna disassemble it completely and take a look how much damage it is. This is a big valve head of another brand. I'm not a big fan of this one, but I'm not going to mention the brand it is. Further, we can see it's an upgraded camshaft. If you look further, you can see there are upgraded RRP head studs in the head. And even if we turn the engine around, we can also see this engine has a baffle system and upgraded connecting rod bolts, also ARP bolts. But there is something funny when we look into the pickup tube that sucks up the oil. Because if I catch my little picking device and I go search for debris, look what is in there. It's unbelievable how much debris is in here. It's almost And it looks like it's all gasket silicone material, like this stuff over here, all this silicone. So this excessive silicone that comes into the engine and gets packed up at the pickup tube.
A few moments later.
So you saw me disassemble the complete engine and put it all in the washing machine. Now we lay down everything on this pallet here, washed and cleaned. I want to give you guys an overview about how it looks. At first I want to mention that the engine was extremely tight. So if you can see, we have those cylinder head plugs to give you access to the chain guides. Normally you can do this with the hex key, but as you see there was no option. So therefore I have to Dremel them out with the hammer. We see this often when people tighten them too much. They don't have to be very tight at all. If you look further in, I want to mention again about the silicone. Here we have the oil pump disassembled. As you can see, there are some stripings on here on the outside. That's coming from debris going through the oil pump. So if we look further in the oil pump, you can also see the scratches on there. Again, that's also from the silicone debris going in. Then we go to the bearings. If you just pick up one and you look at it, you can also see the scratches. As for the connecting rod bearings, you can see there is some wear over the years. This copper color indicates that the top layer is gone and it's going to the harder layer. So we're right on time to change them out. If you go further to the block itself, the piston of course hit the valve. You can see that here. For the rest, it looks in good condition, but we're gonna measure the block itself, see how much wear there is in the cylinders and how much wear there is in the pistons. Because we know the background of the engine and we want to go a little more bulletproof, they're going to be installed forged pistons, so we are sure we're gonna overboard this block. For the crank, we're gonna measure it. It looks to be in good condition, but again, I have to measure. Maybe it's twisted, maybe there is some wear on the journals because of the silicone. The scratches look to be quite okay. That is because the bearing material is softer as the crankshaft. So therefore you get the scratches into the bearings and not into the crankshaft. If you put race bearings into an engine, what often a lot of guys are doing, that's of course a harder bearing. So it's better capable of handling high load conditions. But the downside of that is the bearing is harder. And if there is debris going through the engine, you also get a lot of scratches on the crankshaft itself because of the bearing is harder. So if you use high load bearings and you get some kind of debris going through the engine, often the crank needs to be ground again to get it in the perfect specification again. As for the head, this valve is bent completely. It's stuck in there. We cannot move it with the fingers or nothing. The exhaust valve is also touched by the intake valves because of this. But we're gonna disassemble it to really see how bad it all is, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go to the disassembling. And if you take a look at my hand, you can see the valve keepers. And this is a triple groove system. Triple groove is just as easy as you can see because there are 3 lines that hold the valve to the valve spring. And we can take a look at this retainer here. And there's supposed to be a single groove valve system in here. But I will show you more of this when I completely disassembled it. So as I said before, this intake valve right here is stuck in the guide. We can't remove those valves, so the only way to get it out is to tap it out. There is a possibility I ruined the guide by doing so, but like again, we're gonna completely rebuild it. So we're gonna change out the guides anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Hammer time!
Hij staat ook gelijk mooi recht. So here it is, the valve with the broken off tip and of course bent. So now the head's completely disassembled. We're gonna wash it again because of the oil underneath the valve seals and the excessive carbon buildup it has in the combustion chamber. After we washed it, I will pressure test the head. If you don't know what pressure testing is, check out my last video. There I explain it in more detail how it works. But in short, for the people that don't know yet, it's blocking off all coolant passages, pressurize the system, put it into a hot water tank, and then see if there's any cracks that leak the air from the cooling system, from the pressurized cooling system through the hot tank, so you can see it bubble. So while the cylinder head is in the washing machine, I want to give you guys an explanation about how the difference are between the single groove and the triple groove valve train system. I'm also going to get a full spring kit we have in stock, even the single groove as for the triple groove. And then we go to the workbench where Ollie's head is laying and explain the differences about both systems. So I want to show you guys the difference in parts there are between the single groove and the triple groove system. Here we have a single groove valve, intake valve. And here we got Ollie's his intake valve, and that's a triple groove. So on your left is a single groove and on your right is a triple groove. So here I do got a complete single groove valve train kit of Supertech. In here are the valve springs. Those are the same in both kits, triple groove or single groove, no difference, nothing. So then we got the valve spring bases. Also you get them in both kits. Then we go to the differences. The single groove valve retainers, the same as Ollie uses here. I picked another set for the triple groove system. And of course we have the valve locks. So basically all what you see right now is what's including a single groove kit. Okay, so now we know what's all in the kit. I want to give you an explanation about how it all goes together and why it went wrong with Ollie's his setup. So Ollie uses this valve, so that's his triple groove intake valve, but he also uses the single groove retainer with the triple groove valves. As you can see here, it's a mixed match of parts because you use the OEM locks that only fits this retainer, but he also uses the retainer of the single groove. These keepers will fit the valve. But then, as we insert those keepers into the retainer, as I'm gonna show you guys, you can see it's all very tight and there is a lot of tension. If I push with my finger on it once and pick it up, turn it around, give it some swings, you can see they're still in there and not falling out. This means there's a lot of tension in there. So you can imagine when it's all assembled, you go to 8000 RPM with the system, it will dig into each other, it will break stuff. What you should have used is this retainer. That's the only difference, because if we fit those keepers in this retainer, you can see it's loose in there. There is some air gap, parts can move in each other, so this will be a happy life for the parts. So why should you choose one kit over the other kit? Because they're both almost the same but still different. So a single groove valve kit is used for only race applications because the single groove system has a better strength in the top of the valve, because you can imagine when there is only one groove, you have more meat, more metal, then you have 3 grooves in there. So that's for the racing applications. The triple groove kit is basically developed to upgrade the valve springs but still retain the OEM valve system. This is not the best situation to go for the high RPM because, again, of the strength in the tip of the valve. So when you're looking to only upgrade your valve springs, you use the triple groove system. When you want the full race spec, you use the single groove system, but also need to change all the valves to accept the single groove system. We have them both on our website, but clearly state the differences between them. If you are still not sure whether you should buy the single groove or the triple groove, or if you have the right one you want, please call, make an email. We help you choose the right setup for you and ensure you have the right kit for your application to prevent this kind of damage. I want to give you guys an overview of this big valve head. I said earlier that I'm not a big fan of it, and that's because of a couple reasons. I want to look at the combustion chamber itself. See, both heads have a ported and polished combustion chamber. This is to minimize the carbon buildup. But then here you can see there is a slight little lip in here. When a valve opens, the air wants to go from behind the valve into the combustion chamber. And when you have this kind of a lip, it disrupts the airflow and therefore flows less air. So I don't like this lip. If you come take a look at our head, you can see there is no lip at all. So when the valve opens, all the air directly goes into the combustion chamber. Another feature I want to mention here is look at the angles we have. We have multiple angles in there to direct the flow into the combustion chamber. This is done to ensure the most amount of air is entering the combustion chamber and mixing with the fuel. If you take a look at this head, you can see there is one outer angle and there is one inner angle right here, and that's it. It's hard to see because it's very dirty. I maybe can catch my light on it. I don't know if it helps, but you can see one angle here, one angle there, and that's it. So this one doesn't have as many angles as our head has. This is the same story on the exhaust. Other feature I don't like is you can clearly see how rough it is ported. It's not smooth. Especially this combustion chamber, one lower. You can see how rough it is. And if you compare it to ours, how smooth it all looks. The next feature I don't like is in the intake port itself. I hope you can get a look in it because it's very dark in there. So if you take a look in the intake port, you can really see that there's only been some porting to polish up the port. And if we go further, it's just the OEM port again. And you can just see the casting marks in them. Also, you can see the guides are completely ported away. As a result, you have less valve support. If you get to our port, you can see it's fully ported. The valve guide is also in 100% intact and it has a radius on it to improve flow around the valve itself. Also our divider, the divider is this little ramp between the two valves. It's shaped in a nice curve also to direct the airflow. There are also some other features I do not like, but there are minor things. If I go through both heads completely, I will be here for an hour talking to you about what's and where and why the airflow is improved here. But that's not what this video is about, so that will be for another time. We're going to continue with pressure testing this cylinder head and know if it's in rebuildable condition. After that, We discuss with the customer what he wants to do. Maybe you want to swap for one of our heads, or still want to use this, I don't know how to call it. That's wel gemeen. But for now, we're gonna pressure test the head and go from there. It appears there are no leaks in the cylinder head, so it is serviceable. I will call Ollie and let him decide if you want to keep on going with this head or want to get one of ours. So we completely forgot to film an outro for this video, but if you like the video, please give a like, subscribe and leave a comment, and see you in the next one. Houdoe. Ja, ben je aan het opnemen? What happens when you mismatch triple groove?
Dat is een mesh.
Oei jongen, dat horen ze niet. Mix match is zo kut. Zeg 10 keer mix match. Match match. Motherfuckers. And see what he wanna do with a whip. Oké. Gast, zet het ding uit man.